Hey everybody, this is James from Homestyle Woodcrafts, and for today's project we're going to build a Christmas manger for the Christmas season. This is a pretty straightforward, simple project. So for supplies today we're going to be using a cedar fence picket, and the reason I picked that was for two reasons. One, I like the kind of rustic feel it gives the finished project, and two, it's pretty inexpensive wood. I bought the picket that I'm going to be using for a few bucks at the local home improvement store. For fasteners, I'm just going to be using glue and some little pin nails from my air nailer. So pretty straightforward. We're going to be using a variety of tools today. We're going to use the table saw, the compound miter saw, I'm going to use the band saw, and my nail gun. So I always like using a lot of tools, so they'll be fun. In our projects we always want to keep safety in mind, so I'm going to be wearing my hearing protection. I'm going to be wearing a mask to protect me from the dust, and I'm going to be wearing eye protection. I'm going to be mindful of my surroundings to make sure my work area is safe, so that we finish the project successfully without any safety issues. I always say I like my fingers more than I like any of my project. So if you do this project, please be safe. This can be a good one to work with kids if they're interested. Some of the tools, just be careful about how you include your kids. There are some alternative hand tools that you could possibly use, but it's fun. It's great to involve kids. Just be careful around some of the power tools. So let's get started. All right, so it is time to start cutting the wood. So as you look at the project, there are 3 different cuts for length that we'll be doing. We're doing the ends, the sides, and the legs. Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be using a picket, just a standard item. I had 2 of these, but as I looked down the length of the other one, it was kind of cupped along here, and so this one's flatter, so I'm going to use it. It'll be better to use. So let's get some measuring done here. Now, when I do my measuring and cutting, I only do one cut. I only measure for one piece at a time because of the kerf that results from cutting the wood. And so I measure, cut, and then measure again. The kerf is the little gap that results from cutting with the saw blade. All right, so let's get cutting. Alright, so the next step will be to make the next measurement, cut, and then continue on. Alright, now that we've cut our pieces to length, we need to cut them to size. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the sides of the manger, this and this, and we're going to cut the legs. We're going to do that on the table saw. So we've got these pieces here, sides. This is going to turn into the legs. This is the end, but we're going to do this on the bandsaw. Now, when I cut the sides last time, I made a mistake. When I fit them together like this, they were not the same length. One of them wasn't square somehow. I just did a bad job of cutting. So to fix that, what I did is I set them on top of each other, and then I squared up one end and cut the other ends off on the compound miter saw so that they'd be the same length. And in this case, the exact length isn't too much of a concern. So I'm going to cut one of these. I'm going to trim a little piece off of the side here. And the reason for that is that they're going to fit together like this. And if I don't trim that piece, this side will be taller than this side. So I'm going to trim just the width of this board off of here so that when I join them like this, they'll be the same length. And then I will cut the legs. So let's cut, where's my mark? Alright, so let's go ahead and cut this to the width. And I'm going to be using a little push block I just made out of scrap wood. It's got a little jutting edge out here, so I can fit that on the back of the board and have good control over the piece of wood as I push it through the table saw. So I've cut the sides, which I've clamped together. This is what they're going to look like. And I cut the legs, which we will do some more work on a little bit. Now it's time to cut the end pieces. So what I'm going to do is I've got this square piece. I'm just going to cut it in half to make the ends. Later, we're going to notch the legs and fit them in place, but I'm not going to do that until I can fit them to the finished manger box. So right now we're going to cut the end pieces. I'm going to try it freehand on the bandsaw. Most of the time that works out okay. Sometimes it doesn't. So we'll give that a shot. Alright, more filled in. So it's time to start the assembly of the manger box. So here are the two pieces. And remember, we have one that's a little narrower than the other, because we're going to fit them together like this. And the addition of this width plus this will make it so that they're even. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this up. Gonna smear it out there. then I'm going to just butt end them up against each other, clamp them into place like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some small nails to keep them together. Now you can't see me, but I'm going to be wearing my safety glasses and my head or hearing protection. And there we have it. All right, so now it's time to fit the end pieces on. But when I was looking at this off camera, I realized that I'd made a mistake, and I'm going to show you. Okay, so I messed up on the end pieces. What I had done is I cut a square of the material just in half, forgetting that that would end up fitting like this. Haven't built one of these for a while. So to fix it, I actually set this piece on end on top of the wood stock and just traced out the piece I needed. And I recut it out. Easy fix. So now we're going to proceed with finishing up the box. Now I'm using my nail gun. You could use some small wood screws. You could use just a hammer and nails if that's what you have. This happens to be what I have, and has worked pretty good for me. So I'm just going to use that this time, but you can use other things too. Just get some wood glue here. Get on there real nice. Set our piece on. A little bit of the glue is squishing out on the end. That's okay. I can clean that up later after it dries. Right, now we'll just do the other side. Because I marked them out on the stock by individual end, I went ahead and labeled them. So I made sure and got the right sides together. So like this side was side B, and I marked a down arrow so I know how I wanted to place it. Just put it in place and staple. Or nail, I guess. There we have it. There's the box. So now I'm going to start fitting the legs on. So now it's time to measure the legs for cutting. Now one option that you have if you're going to make one of these is just to leave them offset like this. I think it looks fine. My preference on this project is to notch them and kind of inset them more like this. So that's what I'm going to do. So I just kind of clamped them on here so I could measure them to fit, and then I just put a mark on the inside. And so to notch them, I'm going to make a cut along here. They'll be half the depth of this, so that when they fit, they will fit together. Then the width of it will just be the width of the board. Okay, so our legs have been marked, and it's time to cut them. So I'm going to be using the bandsaw But that's not the only saw you would have to use. You could use a jigsaw, you could use a handsaw. There's other alternative saws depending on what you have. So let's get going. Okay, by the way, as you can see, I've stacked them. That's just for ease of cutting. You don't have to do it that way. You could cut one at a time. Alright, now time to assemble. Alright, so the manger box has been assembled, and I have cut and fit the legs together. And so it's now time to put the legs on, and then the project is done. So, cut the legs so that they would fit together like this. So what I'm going to do is put some glue on here. I'm going to carefully set it in. And I'm using just the edge of this board, the line, as my guide. And I'm going to staple these in here real quick. Alright, and they're all done. We made a manger. Hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Thanks.